Hello, this is Rafel Musni for MoneyPickle. Now, we've been talking about a lot of financial concepts, and one of the terms that we may have thrown around a bit with nary an explanation is the word bond. Well, we often use it when we're talking about stocks, bonds, and cash. Of course, we talked a little bit about stocks, why it's important that you might consider purchasing them either for yourself or for your retirement plan, and we've talked about the importance of having cash. Cash is king. Now, bonds, what are they? I mean, we throw them around a lot, and we might read about them in the paper. Oh, there's corporate bonds, there's municipal bonds, there's other kinds of bonds out there, but what are they? Now, you might think, isn't a bond just another way of loaning money to someone or borrowing money? Well, yes, but let's take something very concrete, and we can expand from there. We're going to talk about one kind of bond. It's called a municipal bond. Sometimes they even call them munis. Now, you may live in a town or a city, and you know that town or city often has to build things before they're actually needed. Roads, bridges, schools, maybe even a stadium. Now, no city really has cash on hand to deal with those things. Most cities, if they do have cash, they'll keep something called a reserve. That's usually to deal with emergencies or shortfalls in budgeting or shortfalls in income to pay for their police department, their fire department, or whatever else they might need to build or maintain. But when they want to build something new, or perhaps rebuild something that must be replaced, they usually don't have that cash on hand. But what they can do is put a ballot measure up and then get the local citizens to vote on that ballot measure to approve the city for issuing bonds. A bond is basically a piece of money that has been funded by investors who, knowing that the city is good to return that payment at some long future date, those investors are willing to wait in general. Bonds can often be 10 years, 20 years, 15 years, even 30 years. Now, what does the investor get out of that? Now remember, those bonds, once they're released, it's not for the citizen to purchase. Of course, citizens can purchase them. It's usually large investors. And it's usually not even large individual investors. It's usually an institution, for example, a large company, an insurance firm, that wants to purchase something and receive income. Once they purchase that bond, they are due to receive, and they are legally entitled to receive an income, usually about once a year or twice a year. And then at the end of the term, may that be 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, or 30, they receive the principal. So hopefully whatever was built with that has generated some kind of income in order to return those payments and to return the original principal. In general, that's a bond. Now it's easy to think of in terms of, say, a sports stadium, which can lend its name and receive income, sell tickets and receive income, rent itself out and receive income. It's a little hard to do with, say, a road, but that's up to the city to try and come up with ways to create income so that it can pay back the investors. So that's a municipal bond. And if you expand on that idea, you can see how a bond might be a great way for some entity, in this instance, it's a government entity, to raise capital in order to produce something. And then it's up to that same entity to figure out a way to pay it back. The reason investors are interested in it is that cities rarely default, if ever. There are some rare instances of a city defaulting. However, in general, a city usually is able to come up with the money in order to pay back these long-term investments. That's a bond. So if there's any questions, let me know.